He killed in front of witnesses. He mailed his own DNA to police. He called detectives on a live phone line and told them exactly who he was. The FBI had his letters, his fingerprints, his ciphers, his voice, and yet he was never caught. He was never identified. He died a free man, possibly sitting next to you on a bus, living in your neighborhood, smiling at your family. This is the Zodiac Killer file, but what nobody ever told you is that before he vanished forever, a man sat in a prison room with the FBI and told them everything. There was a second man in that room, a man who listened to everything, took notes on everything, then disappeared, and the FBI has never officially confirmed he existed. This is that file, and by the end of this video, you will never feel completely safe in a crowd again. By the time this video ends, you will know 3 things. 1, what was revealed to the FBI that was so disturbing they locked it away for 3 decades. 2, the identity of the mysterious man in that room and why the government doesn't want you searching his name. 3, the final detail, the one that made us pause before publishing this video, the one that connects the Zodiac. Stay until the last 60 seconds, because the last thing you hear will be the first thing you think about tomorrow morning. Let's open the file. Most people think they know the Zodiac Killer story. A mystery. Some letters, some ciphers, never solved. They think they have it figured out. They don't, because the version the media showed you was the version the Zodiac wanted you to see. Here is what they never showed you. He wasn't a loner hiding in the dark. He had a job. He had neighbors. He had people who liked him, people who trusted him, people who, after he was gone, said, "He was the nicest man on the street." That line right there. That is the most terrifying sentence in this entire video. Not the murders, not the ciphers, not the FBI failure. The fact that everyone around him felt completely safe. Think about the people in your life right now. Your neighbor, your co-worker, the man who holds the elevator for you. The Zodiac was somebody's neighbor, somebody's co-worker. Somebody held the elevator for him every single morning, and nobody knew. That is what made the FBI desperate. Because if the Zodiac could exist completely invisible, how many others were doing the same thing right now? They needed answers from the inside, and there was only one person alive who had them. With 48 hours left to live. January 1989, Florida State Prison. Special Agent William Hagmaier walks through 7 locked doors. Each one slams behind him. He has spent 4 years building a relationship with Ted Bundy. Not because he liked him, but because Bundy had agreed to do something no serial killer had ever done before. Talk. Really talk. Not for a deal. Not to delay his execution. But because, in his final days, Bundy wanted someone to truly understand how his mind worked. He wanted the world to know exactly what it had been living next to. What happened in that room over the next 48 hours was so detailed, so clinical, so disturbingly precise, that when Hagmaier finally walked out, he sat in his car in the prison parking lot, stared at the steering wheel, a 20-year FBI veteran. Couldn't speak for 2 hours. Now, ask yourself, what does a man say? That breaks a 20-year FBI veteran. In 2 hours, we are going to tell you exactly what he said. But first, you need to know about the second man in that room, because without him, none of what comes next makes sense. Every official record of those final interviews mentions one name: Hagmaier. Just one, but 3 independent sources: a former prison guard, a retired Florida detective, and a journalist who covered the execution. All reported the same thing. There was a second man. He never introduced himself. He sat in the corner. He never asked a single question. He just listened and wrote. The prison guard described him as, and this is a direct quote, "the most forgettable face I have ever seen. Like someone designed a person specifically not to be remembered." Stop for a second. Think about what that means. Someone designed a person specifically not to be remembered. When journalists filed Freedom of Information requests to identify him, the FBI responded with one line. No such individual was present during the interviews referenced. No name, no denial, no explanation. He didn't exist, except he did. And right now you are probably asking one question. Who was he? We found the answer. And it is worse than anything you are currently imagining. But you need to hear what happened in that room first. Stay with us. Bundy told Hagmaier things that criminologists had theorized for years but never confirmed. He explained in surgical detail how predators select victims, not randomly, methodically. He would observe the same location for weeks, learning patterns. Who walked alone? At what time? On which days? He described it like a job. I was more professional about this than most people are about their careers. Then he said something that has never appeared in any documentary. He said there were others, not accomplices, others like him. People he had encountered who he recognized immediately. Same calm, same patience, same invisible quality. He said, you pass them every day, they return your shopping cart, they wave at your children. You trust them immediately because they give you every reason to. Hagmaier asked, how many? Bundy smiled and said, more than you're comfortable knowing. Then he asked for another cheeseburger, and the man in the corner kept writing. The next morning, Bundy was executed. The man in the corner walked out, got into an unmarked car, and vanished. But what he wrote in that notebook did not vanish with him. Robert was never found. In 1991, year after that prison room, the FBI quietly launched the Criminal Personality Research Project. No press conference, no announcement, built entirely on those 48 hours. The BTK Killer Court, the Green River Killer Court, Dennis Rader Court, all identified using behavioral patterns described from a prison cell. 2 days before execution, one interview, dozens of killers stopped. But here is the question nobody asked at the time. If it worked so perfectly, why did they shut it down? In 2003, the program closed, quietly, no explanation, no press conference, and Robert disappeared the exact same year. Same year, not close, not roughly. The exact same year. In 2019, John Douglas, the man who invented criminal profiling, the man who inspired Mindhunter, published a memoir. In one chapter, almost as a footnote, he referenced an observer present during the final sessions. No name, just this. He understood Bundy in a way none of us did, and that frightened us more than Bundy himself. Sit with that for a moment. The man who spent his entire career inside the minds of serial killers was more frightened by the observer than by Ted Bundy. Why? Douglas never explained. The chapter ended. The book moved on. 3 independent researchers spent years trying to find out. They found a name, partial. First name only, buried in a single declassified document from 1991. Robert. He appears in 3 separate classified programs between 1989 and 2003, always observing, never named, always there, always watching, always writing. And in 2003, gone. Now here is every confirmed fact laid out clean. The Zodiac terrorized California for decades and was never caught. Bundy revealed a psychological blueprint of how invisible killers operate. Robert documented every word. The creator of criminal profiling feared Robert more than Bundy. The program shut down in 2003. Robert vanished in 2003. Last week we filed a Freedom of Information request to the FBI. We ask specifically about Robert. One word came back: denied. Now here is the question. Was Robert an FBI analyst? A government psychologist? Or was Robert exactly what Douglas feared? Was the FBI unknowingly using one predator to study predators, while a second one sat in the corner and took notes for himself? We don't know. Nobody does. But here is what we do know. If Robert was what Douglas suspected, he spent 14 years inside the FBI's most classified criminal psychology programs, learning everything law enforcement knew, everything they were looking for, every pattern they had been taught to recognize. And then in 2003, he walked away with all of it and was never seen again. The Zodiac was never caught, Robert was never identified, and the file built from that prison room was sealed. One last thing before you go. The Zodiac sent 37 letters to police and newspapers. They have confirmed 5 victims, which means 32 cases are still open. 32 families still waiting. Go look up your city's unsolved cases tonight. You might recognize a pattern. This has been Dark Files. The next file is worse, and it starts exactly where this one ends.